Hello everyone, Jared Johnson here again, coming to you guys from Costa Rica, at least for the next little while. I hope everyone had a wonderful, fantastic week and a fun, exciting weekend, and I hope you're all ready to jump back into the market. We've got some pretty good movements coming up so far. We see that kind of the pairs in focus pretty much are everything. The US dollar is making some big movements against all these pairs, a lot of them to the weakness. The yen is being a big mover. The euro, smaller mover, but still holding strong, and the pound's being quite the mover. So pretty much we're going to cover everything. But let's start with the euro dollar here real quick and kind of see what I'm looking at. I think that we saw this big breakout. This was the big summer channel push out. It got out of the summer highs and made a nice little run for us last week. And here we see it starting up again. So I think that what we're seeing right here, we see a little summer or a little Sunday night breakout. It's made a nice little run down to the weekly pivot and it's bouncing there. And I think that's nothing more than a dip. I'm going to let this thing get up just a little bit here, but I think this is just a dip in a continuation to a higher uptrend here. So I think the euro will continue upward, the euro dollar anyways. A crucial level that kind of the chatter out there is about is the 14500 level. 14500 on the euro dollar. We saw it just kind of peak down there last week and struggle to break it at the beginning of the week, take a little test of it last week, and now it's just run down to the weekly pivot, kind of approach that 14500 level a little bit, and I think it's going to continue back up. We don't see any reason to believe that the US dollar trend is going to be very changing so far. I think we're going to see a lot more uptrend. We're seeing just a nice little bit of relief, which the market needed. This euro was heading up pretty strong, so it needs to kind of come down here, close in that alligator just a little bit, get a little bit closer to our gap before it continues right back up upward there. But we're seeing some very nice runs, so I will keep my eye on long positions on the euro dollar. One thing that we're seeing here is I'm using the 24 moving average here for a good momentum indicator. I've talked about this with many of you on the sessions. This is just a nice little momentum indicator. We see that the market is nicely above it, has been for about the last month and change. It's a good little distance away, which gives me reason to believe that we could see some pullback, you know, maybe a little bit more pullback here. But I'm definitely still very bullish on the euro dollar pair. Now, one thing that we are seeing that's going to be quite the tough level to break here is kind of this 146.30 area. That was where WR3 was last week, and that also happens to be the 61.8 on this big run from July last year's highs to about the September lows. That is the 61.8 retracement, so we got to get the market to break that pair. But once again, as long as it can stay up the above that 4,500, we should see some nice continuation there. Like I said, my moving averages here showing me nice bullish movement, and we've just seen a little dip here on the 1 hour chart, but I think this pair is going to continue up. So I will be looking for some buying opportunities here. I'm not in it yet, but I will be looking for some buying opportunities as this kind of stabilizes and holds above this weekly pivot. So I may actually wait for a crossover back up on the alligator here is probably what I'll do, just to kind of assure that the momentum is there with us. Pound giving us a little bit of a different picture. We saw that I really think that the euro dollar kind of dragged the pound dollar up a bit. We see that the pound dollar is still you know, got a nice little uptrend here. We see that our daily uptrend here is kind of hanging out okay. It's only recently crossed my moving average here, and so there's new momentum on this one, and I don't think it's to its full potential yet. So we're kind of watching that pound. I definitely see a lot more weakness in the pound than the euro. We see that it's also back heading up to that 50% retracement level on the big run from last July to, you know, its lows of earlier this year. And it's still within its summer channel. One thing that's very important is we've only seen a couple of pairs break out of the summer channel. I think at this point it's the euro dollar and the Aussie dollar. We still see the pound and several other of the yen pairs still within the summer high and low. So we need to get those pairs breaking out of that channel before we see the big movement happening. Another thing that we have to keep an eye on is the correlation between the pairs is a little bit skewed right now. Usually if the euro dollar goes up, and the euro yen's kind of likely to go up as well, and the pound dollar goes up, and so on and so forth. But now we're seeing the euro dollar's going up, the pound dollar's maybe going up, maybe going sideways, the euro yen might be going down. All these pairs are all over the place. Part of it is due to still stuck in that big summer channel. The other part is due to so much pressure on USD, JPY, Euro kind of in their respective economies. And so we're seeing a lot of kind of discombobulation, if that's even a word, across a lot of these pairs here. So we're going to really keep an eye on that correlation. We're going to look at gold quite a bit as well, gold and oil, but mostly gold, to see what the US dollar is expected to do. So we'll keep an eye on that. But I still do think that this pound is probably going to continue up. I'm just not really sold on its momentum yet. I am very bullish on the euro dollar. Pound dollar, not as bullish, which means this will take us right into the euro pound. The euro pound's looking like a good little setup right here. We know that if the euro dollar continues up and the pound dollar doesn't necessarily, then we'll see some really good movements on this euro pound. Going back to my momentum indicator here, my 24 moving average on the day chart, we see that it made a big run up. It's been pretty bullish on this for the last month. Gave us a big run up, pulled right back to kind of retest those levels. Another run up, little pullback here. And hopefully we're going to see it continue to take off from here, which I think we will see, because I think I do see the euro dollar staying, well, the euro staying much stronger than the pound at this point. So I think that's going to give us some very nice movements on this euro pound. And I'm very keeping my eye on that one, and we'll be looking for some nice entries pretty quick there. We've seen a crossover already. I just like to kind of see it move up a little bit more, get a little more above that Dharma, break our Friday high, kind of start our Sunday night trade there, and I think that should give us a good little signal. I've got my Friday high here at about 0.8760, so a break above that will slowly but surely hopefully give us some nice run up there. Aussie dollar, same thing, kind of looking to have this one follow the euro. Now we do see a bit of a 4-hour potential cross here. We see a big bridging candle. If we zoom that in just a hair, we can see it a little bit better. We see a pretty big bridging candle here on the on this Aussie dollar. So as long as that holds above our blue moving average, I think we'll be okay for continued buying. But if it does cross, we don't want to ignore the indicators by any means. If it does cross, then we'll keep our eye on that as well. But it has broken up above the 61.8. It's very bullish on our moving average here, staying nicely above that. Pretty much everything else is just telling us that there's nothing but upward movement here. It did take a quick drop right there. We had some Aussie news come out, but it's just bouncing off that gap and probably getting ready to give us a turnaround and head right back on up. So definitely bullish on the euro dollar, mostly bullish on the pound dollar. I definitely wouldn't get into a sell on the pound dollar, but I'm not as confident that that one's going to continue up as strongly as the euro dollar and the Aussie dollar. Yen pairs are doing an interesting thing. We've seen all the yen pairs kind of break that Sunday night level, and they're pulling right back up to it, which tells me that we may be seeing some bouncing on a lot of these yen pairs. But I'm definitely not ready to get out of these guys by any means, or start buying them. We see that we've seen lots of breaks here. Everything's broken down below that. All these yen pairs are broken down below the Friday high and Friday low, excuse me. But they are pulling back quite a bit. We look at our momentum indicators here. We are still very much in our summer channel on these yen pairs. But this one's, the euro yen, for example, looks like it's starting to make some runs down. For the last over a month here, or approximately a month, it's been holding pretty nicely below our momentum indicator. Aussie yen is just starting to push below that, so it hasn't been quite as bearish there. But the euro yen, I'm definitely very bearish on this pair, so I think that one's going to continue down. And that's kind of what I'm going to be looking at right now. The New Zealand dollar has kind of been a big topic lately, and so we're kind of watching that one. The New Zealand dollar is still holding this 6,900 level right here is crucial. A break of this upper level should give this New Zealand dollar a good reason to continue upward very nicely. It's been kind of hopping around, and now it finds itself right about that 6,900 and beyond. So you know, the breaks of this level right here and the continuation of this level has helped it to move, but it's pulling back. Remember, it's very common to see these pairs kind of pull back and bounce off of those levels. So that 6,900 was very strong, and it's bounced off it. So keep an eye on that. I'm pretty bullish on the New Zealand dollar as well. Not necessarily trading it a bunch, but it's starting to kind of make the radar quite a bit more. So keep an eye on that one. But really, it's the euro dollar, pound dollar, euro pound and some of the yen pairs that are making making the big news right now. So keep an eye on those guys. Be ready to trade some good little movement there. We see this this euro yen is pulling back to those Friday lows. Hoping to see a nice little bounce off that and a continuation downward, but we'll keep our eyes open. So that's kind of the landscape. Remember, correlations are a little messed up, so that's being kind of complicated. But as the correlations get back in whack a little bit, like some of the other equities markets, as well as other pairs with each other, where euros collectively will move together and pounds will move together, and so on and so forth, we're seeing a lot of different movement in all kinds of directions on those. So as soon as those get a little bit more back into shape, we'll see probably bigger movement. But I think at this point we're still going to see some very nice movement. We just kind of have to keep our eye on things. The US dollar is likely to continue weak, and the yen is likely to continue getting stronger, and we'll just kind of take things from there. So good luck. We'll catch you guys on the chat, and we'll talk to you all soon. Take care, guys.